All right, today we're diving deep into something really weird and honestly pretty fascinating. It's called Abyssal Echoes, and it's this surreal collection of philosophical monologues. I want you to just picture this: a world where skeletons, toasters, and even phoenixes all somehow end up in this impossible underwater realm. And there, they're forced to confront the very nature of existence itself.
So, this really gets at the central question that kicks the whole thing off. It's not about survival in the usual sense, finding air or food. It's about being forced to exist in a state that your brain is screaming is absolutely impossible. And that contradiction, that's what pulls you right down into the deep. And right off the bat, we meet a character named Laughing Jack, who kind of acts as our guide to this whole bizarre situation. His words just set the stage so perfectly. He makes it clear this isn't some simple fantasy world. No, this is a place where life itself is, well, a strange phenomenon that you just have to question.
Okay, so let's really dive into this impossible world, right? This first part is all about the setting itself. This place that looks like it's underwater but runs on its own totally twisted logic. And because of that, everyone who ends up there has to grapple with the breakdown of, well, everything they thought they knew.
So, this is what we can basically call the abyssal paradox. It is the absolute core contradiction that every single character has to deal with. Think about it. You are alive, you are conscious, but you're in a place that, by all rights, should have snuffed you out instantly. How on earth do you even begin to make sense of that? And what's wild is that even a creature you'd expect to just be a monster, right? The Demogorgon, even it becomes a philosopher down here. It just perfectly nails that tension, that conflict between your brain's hardwired survival instincts and the completely absurd reality you're living in. Your mind tells you one thing, but the fact that you're still there proves something else entirely. But this breakdown of natural law, it gets even weirder. It's not just about not needing to breathe. The actual physics of this world are, well, a complete joke. And watching the characters try to make any sense of it just puts a giant spotlight on how absurd it all is. I mean, just take this observation from a raptor, of all things. It's such a simple detail, but it's so profoundly disorienting. Square bubbles. I mean, come on. It sounds like a visual gag, but it carries so much weight. It's the world screaming at you that the most basic rules of nature, yeah, they just don't apply here. And then you've got a toaster. A toaster, questioning its own existence while being underwater. It knows that its very presence there should be a catastrophe, right? Which leads it to wonder if it's even plugged into reality anymore. It's just such a brilliant way to show how this world forces even the most random objects to get philosophical. And all of this just builds to the complete demolition of the natural order. Because now we have a phoenix, a creature literally made of fire and air, not just surviving, but flying in what looks like water. Fire and water, life where there should be death, logic and total chaos. All these opposites are just smashed together, forced to exist in the same space. So, what happens when the physical world around you just completely crumbles? Well, it triggers this deep psychological and existential meltdown. When the world makes absolutely no sense, your mind can't help but start to question its own place, its own existence within that nonsensical world. And this quote from a skeleton just cuts right to the heart of that dread. When you strip away all the distractions, all the logical rules you rely on, what's left? Existence gets boiled down to its rawest, most basic component: suffering. The question isn't, how am I alive anymore? It's, why was I ever alive to begin with? And this feeling just echoes all across the abyss. You hear it from the winter monster, who sees life as nothing but pure angst, from Doodle, who feels totally trapped in this never-ending negative loop, the horse skeleton, who just flat out says hopelessness is the new normal, and the phantom, who starts questioning the basic instinct to even want to live. It really is like a chorus of despair, coming from all these beings trapped in a reality that makes no sense. So, okay, when you're faced with a world that's completely illogical and just filled with this overwhelming dread, what's left? Where do you even go from there? Well, this is where the whole story takes a really interesting turn. We start to see the inhabitants go down different paths, each one trying to create some kind of meaning for themselves in a world that seems to have none. And really, two main strategies start to emerge from all that darkness. You have one group of characters who decide to just invent a purpose for themselves. They create a mission to give their life some kind of weight. And then you have the other group who take the complete opposite path. They just embrace the void, and they find this strange, quiet peace in just aimlessly drifting. And just look at this contrast. You've got the snowman who decides he's like a new atlas, believing he's the only thing holding this world together. Now, is that actually true? Probably not, but it doesn't matter. It gives him a reason to exist. And then, on the complete other end of the spectrum, you have the koi. It just accepts that it's floating forever without a destination, and it starts to wonder, hey, maybe that's what life is supposed to be all about.
So up to this point, we've been talking about this abyss like it's a real physical place. But what if it's not? What if this whole impossible world is just one giant metaphor? This is the final piece of the puzzle, and it basically reframes everything we've just talked about. It turns the entire concept completely on its head.
And this line from the jellyfish, this is it. This is the key that unlocks the whole thing. It just comes right out and suggests that maybe this isn't a literal ocean at all, but a symbolic one. Suddenly you realize we're not in a physical abyss, we're actually exploring the deep, dark, and often illogical world of the subconscious mind. And once you see it that way, everything just clicks into place. The crushing pressure of all that water, that's the pressure of society, of anxiety. All those bizarre characters, the raptor, the toaster, the snowman, they're just fragmented parts of a single psyche. The abyss, as it turns out, is just the inner self. So we're not talking about a physical darkness here. It's the darkness of what this character calls a torturous psyche. What the monster is suggesting is that you can actually get used to your own inner turmoil, your own personal abyss, and maybe even find a strange way to live with it, to make it your home. So in the end, Abyssal Echoes uses this whole surreal underwater world to ask a really deeply human question. When your own reality feels totally illogical and meaningless, and that could be the world around you or the world inside your own head, how do you respond? Do you become the snowman, inventing a purpose just to keep yourself going? Or do you become the koi, finding a kind of peace in just letting go and floating? The story doesn't give you any easy answers, just echoes. And so the real question it leaves you with is this: which of those echoes do you hear in yourself?